Okie dokie. We are back for Roundtable Dolphins episode 19. This is our big draft recap episode. I'm going to quickly go over all the draft picks, and then we're going to jump right into some of our surprising picks, some of our favorite immediate impact picks, and so on and so forth. Like I said, there's a lot to get through, so I'm just going to go quickly through this. To start with, all of the draft picks that the Dolphins brought in, which is a staggering 13 players. This is the second highest amount of players they have drafted. They drafted 14 in 1997, which included
Whoa.
Hall of Famer Jason Taylor. But since then, they have not drafted anywhere near that amount. Well, close to that amount, I mean. But 13 players in 2026, excuse me. Here we go. Round one, Alabama tackle, Caden Proctor. Also in round one, San Diego State cornerback Chris Johnson. In round two, we have Texas Tech linebacker Jacob Rodriguez. Also, Texas Tech wide receiver Caleb Douglas. In round three, Ohio State tight end Will Kazmarek. Also in round three, Louisville wide receiver Chris Bell. In round four, we got Texas edge Trey Moore and Pittsburgh linebacker Kyle Lewis. In the fifth round, we have Texas safety Michael Taff and Missouri wide receiver Kevin Coleman Jr., as well as Mississippi State tight end Sidhu Traore. I believe I'm saying that right. I might be messing up people's names like crazy, but it's okay. Moving right along to the sixth round, the lone pick was Texas offensive guard DJ Campbell. And finally, in round seven, Iowa edge player Max Llewellyn. Yeah, it's a lot of players. It's a lot of potentials to be good. It's a lot of potentials to not make the roster and be on the practice squad, and who knows. So we're gonna just jump right into our three surprising picks. They're kind of similar, I think, in nature, but I'll say let's start with this guy because he's your guys' surprise player and he's my impact player. So I'm just
Mm.
gonna go ahead and talk about it. But it's Louisville wide receiver Chris Bell. So I'm going to give you guys the floor and why you think it's such a surprise, but I can kind of guess. I'm going to guess because of his torn ACL, but you guys go ahead. Why Chris Bell?
Yeah, that was it for me. Um, I feel like it because I'm going to say this about a lot of players. It's less about them, and more the fact that they'd already drafted a receiver earlier in the round, and then decided to pick up another one that was injured. So I don't, and because like we were dividing it between immediate impact and confusing, I was like, it seems least likely that his impact is going to be immediate, but there's scope there in Miami for receivers. That competition's going to be hot, and people are going to be fired up and wanting to contribute to that. But yeah, for me, it was an injury thing.
Yeah, he kind of fits the mold, right, in terms of like his like kind of size and his explosiveness, right? But yeah, just in terms of the injury, that was a little weird, and then also too considering that they also took a wide receiver too. But like we talked about, kind of leading up to the draft, right? Like they need to bolster that wide receiver room. So I mean, in that part it made sense, but in the part of like in terms of taking like an injured player, right? That part didn't make sense. So that's why it
Round
was.
three too.
Yeah, yeah, that part it was a little, kind of head scratching. So just for that, that's why it made the list. But I see why, like looking at what he could offer. That's where like, okay, that part makes sense. Just like the injury, and then where he was taken to. That's where I ultimately felt to where he was a confusing slash surprise.
Yeah, I'll just quickly go over why I think he's going to be an immediate impact player. Simply because you're right. This is all health based, and is exactly what I wrote. It's all health based. If he's not healthy, obviously he's not going to make an immediate impact. But you look at all the training videos that have been released of him. The dude's already running really fast. Just separated from ACL tear in November. I saw him on the treadmill. I think he was running like 18 miles per hour or something like that. Like he was running really quickly. So you obviously can't do that if you're not at least healed to a pretty good amount of coming back from a torn ACL. There's a chance that he's going to be ready for training camp. If not, I believe he'll be ready for week one. But you also run the risk of him not playing through training camp or preseason, impacting his ability to be impact. So I totally get the surprise aspect of it. But apart from that, the dude is a playmaker. He already had what was it, 900? He had 917 yards and six touchdowns before the injury occurred. He is 6'2" almost, and 220 pounds. The dude is a big body. He's a big receiver, and I think he's going to be the kind of contested catch player that the Dolphins have not had in recent years. Yes, they did draft some other wide receivers that are on the same kind of in the same ballpark of that. But you watch the tape of Chris Bell, and like the dude, I think he's going to be really good, barring his health. That's why I put immediate impact, because I'm assuming that he's going to be ready to go. But I could also see your guys' surprise of like he just had a torn ACL, and even if he's young, even if his body can bounce back quicker than most other veteran players, there's no promise that he's even going to be remotely what he was before the torn ACL. So I understand
No.
that.
And you run the risk of, if you are pushing too hard,
Yeah.
re-aggravating that. So just err on the side of caution pick. No offense to him, his skill set's great, but yeah, the immediate impact thing wasn't looking likely for me. But I hope the best for him.
I'm with you guys on that one. Let's see. Let's move right along here. Surprise. This is a surprise. Was a surprise to me and I believe Billy. Yes, because you put him as impact and surprise, and we'll just go right into that. But it's our first round pick, Mr. Caden Proctor. We talked about this in our first round reaction on Friday, I believe it was. But we'll get a little bit more into it. I know Buddy wasn't here for that. Yeah, it's a surprise. And through all of the whatever is going on, the analysts, the pundits, us, everybody saying it, writers, journalists, everybody. Caden Proctor is a big time boom or bust prospect. He has weight issues that we talked about, well documented. Everybody understands that. Nick Saban had a lot to say about that, about his weight. And so when Nick Saban's talking about a player, you kind of have to listen to what Nick Saban is saying. So that goes a long way. But I think he's huge. He is a massive human being. He's 350 pounds, 6'4", 6'5", I believe it is.
I think he's 6'7".
6'7". 6'7", kids. All right. Anyway, sorry, I had to do it. Let me find his.
He's 6'6".
6'6".
He's
Thank you.
6'6". Oh, yeah,
6'6", 350 pounds. Like he pulls double blocks like crazy, and he can move them. He can move mountains, but obviously your head needs to be in the right place, especially as a young player, especially as somebody that's coming to South Florida, where everybody knows there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot going on. It's hard for a lot of players to separate the party lifestyle and playing for the Dolphins at the same time, which I understand completely. But if he can stay disciplined, if he can stay on top of his game, I think he's going to be an incredibly good tackle. I don't know. I don't really know what they're going to do. They might make him a swing tackle, because you have on the left side Patrick Paul, who's not going anywhere because he's one of the best. On the right, you got Austin Jackson, but Austin Jackson can't stay healthy. So there's going to be one of two things that are going to happen. He's either going to be a swing tackle coming in and taking over at certain times, or rotational for both Patrick Paul and for Austin Jackson, or he might outwork Austin Jackson and take that right tackle position. If not, they kick him on the inside because Jonas Avenea struggled, and they no longer have Cole Strange, who left in free agency. So he would be an oversized guard, but I'm still not. I don't know. Really what it comes down to is his weight and being able to keep that weight off and be disciplined. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I dropped him in surprise just because of what we spoke about last episode of with all the other options around him. It was a surprise. We spoke about it being surprising. It was the first surprise, probably not the first surprise of the night. There'd been other things up until that point, but like just one of those things where it was like, huh, interesting. And then we spoke about it, going into why I put him into the immediate impact thing is exactly what you said. Like if he is as impactful as he seems he's going to be, then I think he's going to be a great asset for the run game. And I think that there's going to be, like, obviously John Eric Sullivan happily made him their first prospect, their first Dolphin that they ever drafted. So, they obviously see something in him and how they're going to fit him into their schemes that they're building over in Miami. So yeah, he was a both for me. He was a surprise and let's see. He's obviously got the potential to be great. So
Yeah, I'm certainly around the same, kind of thought process as Billy. Like it was kind of like, all right, yeah, it was certainly a shock, right? But also too, I was like, okay, well, he is at a premier position, right? A tackle position where, obviously the Dolphins needed to shore up a lot of things, and offensive line was one of them. And although like the pick itself was a surprise, like the position he's at and the impact he could have. That's why I put him in the immediate impact category because I just feel like he does have the certain tools to kind of establish himself there with the Dolphins and offensive line, obviously protecting the quarterback and the run game. That's vital, right? Just in the game of football, that's vital. But yeah, like it does kind of fit in those two categories because obviously who was on the board, right? Like Ruben Dane, Caleb Downs, right? Like those are the types of players he's going to be compared to, like
Hmm.
moving, especially considering that they traded once, not traded one spot down, right? Yeah, they traded one spot down,
Yeah.
right? When they could have had Downs or obviously like Bain, like we've talked about, in the past couple months, right? So like in that part, that's where it's kind of that's just a reality of it in terms of like who he's gonna be compared to, right? It's like
Hmm.
either John Eric Solomon's gonna be looked at as a genius, like all right, he knew what he was doing, or it's gonna be like, oh well, I mean, is he really fit for the job? Like like did he really learn something at Green Bay, right? Like things like that. So I'm gonna caution in the side in the not really caution, but I'm gonna go on the side of that he will make an immediate impact and that John Eric Solomon knows what he's doing. But yeah, if this doesn't pan out, and I know it's barely going to be May, but if he doesn't pan out, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people wondering like if this is the right guy for the job.
Yeah, the target's going to fall on his back massively.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. I'll go into this surprising pick because you guys put him as your immediate impact pick. But we're talking about wide receiver Caleb Douglas. Um, this one's really confusing for me because he was a sixth, seventh round rated prospect, and the Dolphins took him in the third. I will say this: obviously, they had a roadmap. They knew where they wanted to go. Me and Billy, we talked about this in the first round. You kind of you understand what the kind of outlook, or rather the types of players that the Dolphins are aiming to pick up. They wanted to get bigger and more physical, and they did that across the board, which is why they have every single wide receiver practically, except for I believe the second to last one, was they're all above 6 foot. They're all like 210 to 220 pounds. So I get it. My reasoning behind this, even so, he had 846 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2025, 877 and 6 in 2024, 14.6 yards per reception in 2024, and 15.6 yards per reception in 2025. Fantastic. Not mad about that. However, 7 drops in 2025 is crazy. That's so many drops. And he had 3 in 2024, 10 over the last 2 seasons. That's why I'm very confused about this one and why the Dolphins decided to take him in the third round as opposed to some of the other wide receivers that were readily available at that moment. I think I want to say Chris Brazel was still there. I think Zachariah Branch was still there. But they take Caleb Douglas, and yeah, it's really surprising for me considering like a lot of what's been said about him. That he's not really a bursty athlete. He doesn't really like have a lot of like, oh man, this guy is gonna be so good kind of outlook. But again, we're talking about players that haven't taken the field, so what the hell do we know, or anybody else for that matter? But when looking at the tape and looking at his overall all of the intangibles that you can look at. The main thing for me, the reason why I put it as a surprising pick, is because of those drops. 7 is so many. That is way too many for anybody, for any team. And the fact that you take a receiver that high, number 3, that has that many drops is very concerning. They do not need receivers that drop the ball because they've dealt with that in the past, and it's not great. So I don't know. You guys can tell me why you think he's going to be immediate, but that's my feelings on it. Like I said, I like the yardage, obviously the touchdowns. The guy's a big body. He's got a good catch radius, all that good stuff. But for him not being as bursty or having that kind of skill that a lot of the other wide receivers have in the third round is what's concerning me.
Yeah, I hear you, but I prefaced mine with, hear me out, Caleb Douglas. Simply because he's their favorite receiver that they picked. They picked him first. And I'm trusting in the vision John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley had. I was rude about their first pick. I'm going to trust them from here on out. I feel like he's got the best shot of getting out there and making an impact. And I think he has the opportunity to grab that with both hands, hopefully. There's my poor joke of the day. Also, he's a big guy, 6'4". Oh, the echo's back.
No,
Is
I
it
think you're
gone?
good. It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, he's a big guy, 6'4". So I think, that's exactly what they needed. We spoke about that in previous episodes, getting taller, bigger receivers, to help out Malik Willis. And yeah, because I'm foreseeing the Dolphins this year going down being a run heavy team, I think he's going to come in where he's needed as opposed to being that guy that they're necessarily going to all the time. So I think in terms of like what he's expected to have impact on, I think he's going to be good at. Was my thinking.
Okay. I actually didn't put Caleb Downs. I mean, sorry, Douglas.
Oh, you did? I thought you did. Would you put?
No. We're talking about surprise, right?
Yeah.
Kyle Lewis.
No, we're talking about immediate impact, right?
I mean, we're kind of jumping. No.
Okay,
yeah.
This was
No,
a surprise. Sorry,
I did not put Caleb.
No, yeah.
Caleb
Billy,
Douglas.
Billy put him as
Buddy's like, don't bring me into this.
Okay,
Yeah,
no,
my
not this.
bad.
Not this.
We're jumping around here. This is
Yeah, no, all good. All good.
I
love
planned
it.
for something else, but this is what it is. It's
No,
fine.
no, hey.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But,
So
I mean, look, I didn't have him on my list, but Billy made some great points on that, so I'm gonna leave it at there.
okay. All right, that's
I don't
fine.
want any part of that.
I don't want any part of that. No, you're right. Sorry, I didn't scroll down enough. So,
All good. No worries.
speaking of the Dolphins being in the run game, and speaking of, obviously, that's what they're planning on doing. That's why they got Caden Proctor. That's why they got a lot of bigger bodies in there. My last surprising pick for the Dolphins was tight end Will Kazmarek, simply because I get it. He's the consensus top blocking tight end in the draft, but I just feel like taking that player in the third round when there's other immediate needs is a bit confusing to me, simply because like they could have got another pass catcher, they could have got another offensive line, they could have gone so many different ways, and I'm worried because if they're going and getting a blocking tight end in that third round when they already have that on the roster, makes me think they're going to be a 2-run heavy team. And I think while that's a good thing because Devon Achane is fantastic and we know that, and Malik Willis can run the ball as well, I'm worried that that's going to then be their MO as opposed to mixing it up and not giving Malik Willis enough to throw to. And then it goes into the wide receivers that they took and who they have on the roster. There needs to be a good balance because you're not going to be able to give Malik Willis enough chance to shine and see what he can do if you're only going to be running the ball or you're going to primarily be running the ball. That's why I put it as a surprising pick, especially in that third round. I'm not so sure about it. Sure, blocking tight ends are great, and we know what they can do, what they offer, and Devon Achane needs those running lanes to be open. If Will Kazmarek is there, as well as Caden Proctor, pushing people around and getting those lanes open, I'm all for it, but I'm just worried that it's going to be too much run and not enough balance of a passing game as well.
Yeah, and we've seen it on other teams. The second the run game goes down, it collapses, and you can't just be a one-trick pony. You really have to be flexible. And so I hear you. I hear the concern, but I do think sometimes teams with those like strong run games sometimes you just can't stop them, and it pays off.
I agree, but real quick to add on top of that, the reason why too is I'm jaded because of Mike McDaniel, because Mike McDaniel gave up on the run game and only became a passing coach, and look what happened to the Dolphins because of that. And you had Devon Achane the entire effing time, and look what happened. You didn't balance it, so I'm worried.
Past trauma.
Yeah, I'm worried that they're not going to balance the run game with the pass game, and obviously everyone's like, "Oh, look at the wide receivers they have." But okay, it's Malik Willis's job to show what he can do with limited players. Because then you have a 2027 to build around him even more, but you still have to give him the chance to do so. And if you only want to be a run team and you're only letting him do dink and dunk passes, that's very concerning. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just jaded. I'm concerned. I don't want it to be Mike McDaniel 2.0. I really don't, because, like I said, the moment the run game stopped working, he would abandon it completely.
Yeah.
And if that's going to be the case with Jeff Hafley's his own man. I'm not saying he's going to do the same thing. But if they try to do the passing game and it doesn't work out and they're like, screw it, we're run only, that's what's concerning to me.
Yeah, it looked like around the draft, that's what they're building. And so I completely get it.
All right, so we're going to just jump into immediate impact players because we have a common mind on these last two guys. I know we've been jumping around a lot, like I said, but we're going to start with the very first one who I was honestly very, very surprised about, but I'm very happy they got him, and that's Texas Tech linebacker, Mr. Jacob Rodriguez. Jacob Rodriguez won every postseason award you could possibly think of in college, minus the Heisman Trophy. The Butkus Award, the Lombardi Award, like everything. He won it all. That dude is a baller. I don't want to say this. People are saying this, but I'm not. I'm gonna say it here. I'm not saying this is what's going on. But people are calling him the second coming of Zach Thomas. I sure as hell hope so. I'm not gonna go ahead and say that yet. But this dude is a baller. He 128 tackles, 4 interceptions, like 7 passes defended. Like the dude can play like a defensive back, but a linebacker form. I was a little shocked because you already have Tyrell Dodson and you already got Jordan Brooks, and there was not a deep need for linebacker at all for the Dolphins. So this was a really surprising pick, but everybody seems to love it. I love it now too, simply because Jacob Rodriguez is a playmaker. And what better way to kind of go against the grain and just say screw it than taking the consensus top linebacker in the draft? Well, you know what I mean, like second best, whatever. But a player that has the kind of motor and passion to just get after the ball, and lining him up with alongside T Dot and Jordan Brooks, whew, look out.
Yeah, he wasn't not on my list actually, but only because I was making space for my hear me out. Just because obviously this, is a great pick. Jeff Hafley's a defensive minded guy. Like obviously this is going to be great for them. Yeah, love it. Didn't go on my list though, so I'll bow out here.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's me and Buddy. My bad. See, like I
Okay,
said,
no.
I agree. I
we're
100%
rolling
agree.
with it.
I just wanted to be nice to
No,
Chris
you're good. You're
Douglas,
good.
okay?
All right, take it away, Buddy. We got you.
No, yeah, Jacob Rodriguez, I saw him a lot towards the end of the season, especially in that BYU game. Obviously, things didn't pan well out for Texas Tech and, against Oregon, but Jacob Rodriguez is I feel like he's the real deal. He's one of the main reasons why Texas Tech's defense was so elite last year and why now Texas Tech is like a juggernaut in college football because of Jacob Rodriguez. This dude can really do it all, leading them to what like a top 5 defense in the nation, right? And obviously like the Dolphins need whatever they could have got, and I think honestly he could be their best draft pick because he has so many great intangibles. He posted 13 career forced fumbles. That's insane. That's an insane amount. This guy's a ball hawk. He's a great open field tackler. Like this dude could really do it all. And when I saw that the Dolphins got him, I was like, oh, I remember I messaged James. I'm like, that's a great pickup right there. I just feel like he could be their best draft pick, and I seriously wouldn't be surprised if he's one of their best defensive players next year. And also too, like with Hafley, right? He's a defensive minded coach. I think he could utilize them and use them in ways that that could just like kind of maybe not transcend the Dolphins defense like right now, obviously, because there's so many they just lack like kind of like if just being frank like talent, right? But like in a few years, right, when Rodriguez has more reps under his belt and whatnot, and obviously we talked about the money that they're gonna spend that they have for next offseason and for years to come, right? Like I mean, I think this guy could be certainly the focal point and the core piece not only for the defense but for the entire team. That's
Yeah,
all I have.
definitely. Let me go over his stats real quick. So 128 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 7 forced fumbles, 6 passes defended, and 4 interceptions. As a linebacker, whoop, that's exactly how Zach Thomas was. So again, and funny enough, Zach Thomas also played for Texas Tech, so and shouted him out, and he was like, even before they drafted him, they're like, "This is going to be the guy." And then the Dolphins, he's like, "I hope the Dolphins draft him," and they did. So a lot of cool connections there. I think you're right. I think this kid is special. You watch his tape, like he's a violent player, high motor. The dude just keeps going and going and going and doesn't stop. Again, we're only guessing as everybody else is guessing, and the measure of any draft pick is in 2 to 3 seasons. You can't say, unless of course they come out like a bat out of hell and they're like defensive rookie of the year or up for that award. Sure, you can be like, hey, like this was a good guy, but we don't really know. But you can tell with Jacob Rodriguez, he just has that kind of like he plays like a monster, and it's going to be really exciting. I know we're jumping around again. I did want to go back to one last surprise thing that I forgot to mention that Billy wrote down, but I do want to talk about this because this is very
Oh yeah.
important. You wrote down the fact it wasn't a player, but the fact that the Dolphins did not draft a quarterback. This
All
is
that yapping.
so funny enough. Sullivan was asked about that, and he kind of walked back his comments, but kind of like reiterated it. He said, "Look, we didn't feel like we were in a position to do that yet." He's like, "But we will draft a quarterback every year after that." Blah 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 blah. I 100% think that that was all a smokescreen. I don't think that they were really going to do so. And honestly, I'm very happy that they did not. I know that they don't have a developmental quarterback on the roster, but that's kind of Quinn Ewers anyway. Quinn Ewers is still there. So you kind of have to see what Quinn Ewers is or isn't still. He only played in 3 games, so that's kind of like still your rookie, if I'm being honest. But I'm glad that they didn't because that kind of signals that, hey, they're actually going to give Malik Willis a chance to be that guy and see what he can do, even with limited, you know, resources, if you will. But yeah, I think that's an important pick. So
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, and what did I say about pretending you're bringing in Malik Willis to fight behind some rookie? I didn't think so. Like, I think it was very clear that Malik had that starting job. He's not fighting for that starting job. And I think that this just made it clear. But yeah, when I scrolled down the next one, I was like, let's see if they stuck to their word. It's the first thing that they had kind of just like gaslit everyone about. So that's why that made it onto my list. But I like it from them. I think that the players that they did get have filled the holes that they needed to fill, like actually fill. And there was no, as we've said multiple times, like the quarterback situation was not it this year. LA disagrees. So,
Heavily so.
sorry to bring that up, buddy. Yeah. So yeah, that was my last surprising take.
No, yeah, that's actually a great point. That is really surprising. I totally forgot about that whole kind of, oh, if we're gonna bring in for more competition and they did nothing, right? So that was certainly a surprise, and yeah, just considering the amount of money they gave him Malik, and considering the lack of quarterback, how this year's quarterback class wasn't that strong, right? Or strong at all, outside of Fernando Mendoza, right? So like there was no real
He's
like
doubling down on that time.
there's no real player there that could really come in and kind of compete with Malik, right? So I mean, kind of the stars aligned for Malik, at least for his sake, right? Because of the this year's draft class and what it presented, or what it didn't present. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously they paid him that money to be that guy, and 2020, we'll see what happens in 2026 with him, and uh, we'll see if they provide him with the if they provided him with the proper help.
Hmm.
yeah, again, I just think this was smart. I think that whether it was a smokescreen or the fact that they just didn't simply, like you just said, buddy, they just simply didn't see any other talent within the quarterback position to waste the draft pick on that. Not waste, but you know what I mean. Like they have. Everybody knows the Dolphins have needs up the wazoo, up and down their roster. So really, anybody they took besides quarterback, it didn't matter because they need to like fill those roster holes and they need to reevaluate and rebuild the roster from the ground up, essentially. But I'm just really glad that they didn't do this because now they're not the Browns who took another quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell are they doing again? 4 quarterbacks again. Anyway,
They
that's not
love a little competition over there in Cleveland.
it.
Another competition, but
That was the concern that I had. I was like, I don't want them to be that. I don't want the Dolphins to go and get a quarterback every year because what the hell are you doing? Obviously, when you're trying to figure out who you got, you have to do that. But right now, you pay Malik Willis, and Malik Willis, for all intents and purposes, is still kind of like a rookie prospect because he
Hmm.
only has 6 starts in the NFL. That's not necessarily true. He's been in it for 4 or 5 years, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like he hasn't really been given the chance to start a full season. And if you would have taken another quarterback, that could have damaged that. Or like you brought up
Yeah.
several times before, Billy, that could have damaged your reputation with Malik Willis. And if he does good, who's to say he's not going to want to sign with another team once his contract is up because he feels slighted by the Dolphins?
And if he does bad, then next year you got pick of the litter in the 2027 draft. So
Yeah, exactly. So exactly, and the fact that you didn't give up, any kind of additional draft compensation or whatever to go and get that player. Everyone's believing the Dolphins are going to be a top 5 draft pick. team next season. We don't know. That could be the case. It could not be the case. But they're going to give Malik Willis a real shake, and I think that's important. And I'm glad that they didn't go and get a quarterback. They still have Cam Miller, and Quinn Ewers, as I brought up. So Cam Miller was the rookie pick, 6th-round pick in 2025. So he's still there as well for you to kind of see. Maybe they go and get a veteran because they still need maybe
Hey,
Quinn Ewers.
Jimmy G's right there.
I mean, I don't know. I think he's going to retire. But anyway, the point being, like,
Sad enough.
Malik Willis is the guy. Malik Willis is the guy, and that's important, and I'm glad that they went that route. Finally, this player that me and Buddy both agreed on is going to be an instant impact player is going to be cornerback Chris Johnson.
And me.
And you, sorry, all three of us. That's the one that's all three of us resounding yes on San Diego State quarterback Chris Johnson. So, huge pickup. I was not as enthused that they had to trade up to get him. I thought they could have probably stuck there and taken him at number 30. But regardless, they believe that this was the guy. They moved up with the 49ers. They got him anyway. I love this pick. I think that obviously the Dolphins secondary is a huge, big old mess right now. They didn't re-sign Jack Jones. He left in free agency. They have not signed Rasul Douglas. They probably won't re-sign Rasul Douglas because they are obviously rebuilding through the draft. They went and picked up Lonnie Johnson Jr. They still have Storm Duck. They still have Juju Brents. They have some guys there, Darrell Baker Jr. They got Ethan Bonner. They have some guys that obviously, like, they've been injured, so again, they don't really know what they got. But with Chris Johnson, he comes in, he's immediately cornerback number 1. Immediately. Like, this guy's going to be their day one plug-and-play starter from the jump out of anybody on this roster. Even Caden Proctor, I think Chris Johnson's going to come in. He's going to be that guy. He is a crazy good athlete. There's a lot of people that said that he could be the top cornerback, even over Mansour Delane. We don't know yet, but the dude had 8 passes defended, 4 interceptions, and 16.1 passer rating when targeted in 2025. 16.1. That's crazy. Like, this dude is a lockdown prospect, I believe. I love this pick. I will hand it over to you guys. I'm sure you do, but yeah.
100%. Completely the same. What have they got going on back there in secondary? Not much. And so I think that this is really going to be an immediate difference maker on the defense. And like we said, Hafley is a defensive-minded coach. He's going to find so many ways to utilize and get the best out of him. And I think even John Eric Sullivan's been speaking about, like, his versatility, and we're going to see that this season. I think that they're going to find the best ways to get what they need out of him. And I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, Johnson's a guy who's really dangerous and who's really dangerous and who's a playmaker really. The four interceptions that he had, 2 of them he returned for touchdowns.
Yep.
And total yards it was 146. So when this guy has the ball in his hands, it's like, okay, like, we need to bring this guy down or else he's gone. He's gonna bolster for the end zone, right? And also too, I was looking at the numbers right now. He didn't allow a touchdown in coverage this season. This guy's like insane, right? So I mean, like, he definitely has the potential to be the best corner in this draft, right? And certainly, like, just right off the gate, CB1, right? The Dolphins needed this type of player. They got this type of player, and this right here. I mean, obviously, it's a first round pick, so I mean, you're expecting them to be kind of an immediate impact player, right? But yeah, I think with Johnson and then with Rodriguez as well in that box, right? This is certainly a step in the right direction for the Dolphins defense and what they're trying to build. If these guys could hit, which I think we could all, for the most part, agree that you never know, right? But I mean, like, if they're more likely, may possibly to pan out, right? I think this could be a really, really tremendous draft, especially on the defensive side for the Dolphins.
And how important are those turnovers in games, like, especially in playoff games if we're, jumping ahead for the Dolphins, but in divisional games, those are the things that can launch you up to the number one seed. If you just happen to know, with Johnson's, football mind, being able to clock out and, like, learn Josh Allen and Drake May, and I'm not even going to respect the other one.
Exactly.
I don't know what's going on in there in New York. Okay, I don't know who they've got at the moment. But if he can learn those minds and he can learn those eyes, he'll be able to make a massive difference. And those turnovers really can just make a difference in divisional situations. So love that.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
and that's where it starts, right? Like, I mean, you got to know it's because you face them two times a year, right?
Yep.
Allen and May, and they're still both young, and they're still. I mean, May especially is just gonna
Yeah.
get better. Allen is what Allen is, right? So, if you could have maybe their number in a way, or kind of know their tendencies or whatnot, that's gonna go a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Also, too, the other aspect of his game that I didn't forgot to mention is he played over 600 snaps on special teams. He was a gunner and he had a block punt in 2024. So, like, whether or not the
Those
Dolphins try,
matter.
yeah, whether or not the Dolphins choose to use him on special teams, like that's huge too, because that gives you another element of a player that can either jump in as starting cornerback and then go and be a gunner and make a play on the ball and pin a team down in the 10-yard line to fight. You know what I mean? Like these are huge, huge playmaking abilities that the Dolphins have needed for multiple years and can be game changers for multiple reasons. So yeah, Chris Johnson, fantastic pick. I think he's gonna be that guy from day one. I think he's gonna be, yeah, like you just said, buddy. Him and Jacob Rodriguez, I think, are gonna be the two players that are gonna surprise everybody. Not surprise everybody, but rather be the two that everyone's gonna go, oh yeah, those guys were for sure. They're ballers and they're gonna keep balling. So definitely. Okay. All right. To wrap this all up, because these are just we're just going crazy. Let's do some snap grades for the draft. Obviously, this is subjective. Everyone's gonna have a different opinion on this, I'm sure. I'm gonna go ahead and give the Dolphins a B. I think they had a very solid draft. I think again, the reasoning for a little bit lower grade, I'm not going to give them an A or a B plus because I'm still not sure about Caden Proctor. Regardless of like what everyone's saying about him, it's a very concerning pick for me because that's your number 12 pick, and if the guy cannot stay on the field, if he cannot manage his weight, if there's anything wrong, and you like you brought up, Buddy, and we're all gonna continue to bring up for weeks on end, you're going to be judged against Ruben Bain and Caleb Downs. And if those guys come out and are Defensive Rookie of the Year nominees and Caden Proctor is forgotten, that's what it's going to look like. And everyone's going to keep bringing that up. That's going to be Sullivan's claim to fame for multiple years. So I'm still concerned about it. I like most of the picks. I'm still confused about a few. I'm happy about the quarterback aspect of it. I feel like they could have gone a little bit deeper, not taken as many wide receivers, and kind of bolstered the other positions there. But yeah, solid B for me.
Yeah. Similar feelings as you, but I was a little bit more generous and gave them a B plus,
Okay.
simply because I think they filled every hole they needed to fill with good prospects, but they jumped a few prospects that could have been huge. So same situation as you, and also with the quarterback thing, I was like, you can get a little plus for not doing that. But for me, the main thing that I was looking at them that doesn't allow it to go up to the A was the three receivers situation, because I'm like, were there other guys there that just could have been a little bit more beneficial for you? I think so, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it turns out that they're all A plus prospects, and Hafley and John Eric Sullivan are a genius, and they're going to turn the Dolphins around all in one year.
All right,
Stranger
like
things have happened.
yeah, exactly. Well, like how many total picks is that? 14 or something like that?
13.
If
13.
13, yeah, 13. So if they hit on four of these, that's for me. That's a major win. And like we just talked about just a couple minutes ago, I feel like they could hit on two, and both of those are defensive players. Overall, I'm going to give them a B as well because of those two players. Defensive wise, I feel like they did a really good job. Offense, we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Their wide receivers, we talked about it and how their room is. I'm still a little iffy on that, right? See what happens there. Maybe they do something in free agency. We'll see. Overall, it's a B. For Proctor, his main job this year is to not be talked about. You do not want to be talked about as an offensive lineman, because if you're talked about an offensive lineman, that means you're not doing a great job. So if he's not talked about at all, whether that's nationally, but specifically within Miami and and their media circle, if he's not talked about at all from September to December, he's doing a great job. If he's the main focal point on a lot of those radio articles stuff, if we continue to talk about him deep into the season, that's going to be trouble. So if he keeps his name out of our mouths or anybody else who runs the Dolphins, he's gonna be doing a solid job.
Yep. There you have it. A lot of differing opinions, but one thing's for sure. I think we're all in agreement that Caden Proctor had better be worth the number 12 pick. Obviously, again, this is all considering that it's going to take 1 to 2 to 3 years for these players, all the rest of those players, to truly show who they are, what they can be. There's going to be some immediate impact guys like Chris Johnson and Jacob Rodriguez. Hopefully, will be those guys. But we'll see. It's just right now for as even John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Halfley both said, if you're picked later or picked higher up, there's going to be some expectations. So the expectations is that Caden Proctor is going to be a plug and play offensive lineman. Hopefully, but we'll see. Hopefully, this has been Roundtable Dolphins episode number 19. We will be back next week. Maybe we'll start talking more about all these undrafted free agents. There's way too many to go into. But yeah, we'll start looking at the roster overall and talk more about that when we come back. Thank you guys for listening.